Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for attending our Hope for Animals Summit. This is a bonus feature, actually a gift to you for attending our summit, and it's a special one. My name is Lisa Levinson. I'm your co-host for the Hope for Animals Summit, and I'm going to turn it over to our other co-host, Joan Ranquet, who is also co-hosting the summit today.
Well, thank you. We have some amazing speakers today, yourself being one of them, but I'm going to start with Lorrin's little bio. Lorrin Maughan, with the help of companion horses Gift and Fella, coaches people to develop their personal leadership and build deeper connections with other humans and non-humans in order to be more sustainable and effective advocates for the animals, the earth, and each other. Her mission is to help people create a more compassionate world, starting with themselves, which is awesome. And then Lisa, our other speaker today, is Lisa Levinson, is the director of In Defense of Animals, Sustainable Activism Campaign, a trained movement therapist, museum exhibit designer, and mosaic artist. Lisa promotes self-care for animal activists through IDA's Animal Activist Helpline and monthly online events. She also organizes local vegan spirituality groups and regional retreats to explore veganism as a spiritual practice. For fun, Lisa develops exhibits for the Animal Museum. She co-founded Public Eye, Artists for Animals, to teach compassion for animals through the arts, and founded the Toad Detour to help migrating toads safely cross the road in Philly.
Yes, a claim to fame of mine.
So anyway, I want to thank you guys for the wonderful work you're about to do, and go ahead, Lisa, and take it away.
Thank you so much, Joan. So this talk that we're going to present is actually one for you. It's for activists, so that activists can feel a sense of support and also to tune into your own leadership abilities. That's what we're going to focus on. I'll go ahead and start the presentation, giving you some wonderful resources that you can use during your activism. Okay, so I'm navigating over to our PowerPoint here. Great. So, what is sustainable activism? Well, the main point of it is to help people who help animals. And we started, the In Defense of Animals started the Sustainable Activism campaign to offer emotional and spiritual support to animal activists based on 3 strategies. So we define animal activists as people who care for and advocate for animals. So really could be many of us would say, that's me. So first thing that we do is promote trauma stewardship. So Laura Van der Lipsky coined the term and wrote a book about trauma stewardship, caring for the self while caring for others, and to address the secondary trauma that we experience in these sorts of helping professions. So what we're doing with the Sustainable Activism campaign is that we're applying the principles that she started in her book to animal activists who also suffer from secondary trauma while witnessing animal abuse and cruelty. That could be in the field, it could be just on Facebook, actually. We also promote a type of communication called nonviolent communication that was developed by Marshall Rosenberg. And it's a communication process based on self-empathy and honest self-expression. He called it nonviolent communication because it encourages listening, it reduces conflict, and promotes peace. So by practicing nonviolent communication, we demonstrate the very nonviolent behavior toward people that we're asking everyone to extend to animals. And then sacred activism is another big part of our campaign. A gentleman named Andrew Harvey wrote a book about this topic, and he defined sacred activism as the marriage between the spiritual wisdom and a practical, pragmatic drive to transform existing political, economic, and social institutions, a holy force, the power of wisdom and love in action. So, vegan spirituality is an example of this sacred activism, demonstrating love in action for all life. So, to put these three concepts together, we provided a few services that we hope that you'll use. They're all developed for you. So we have an animal activist helpline, which provides a free, anonymous phone, text, and email counseling for activists by activists. Many of our counselors are trained in nonviolent communication techniques and are professional therapists and coaches. So this is accessible to you. You can call the number which I'll give to you in a bit. On Monday to Friday, we're there from 8 a.m. in the morning to 8 p.m. Pacific time and 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern time. We also offer an animal activist online support group, which was really a place to talk with other activists for peer support and solidarity. We have regular web meetings, and also we have a Facebook group where you can chat regularly. Another feature that we provide is these sustainable activism webinars, and we've been hosting these for, maybe a year or more, where we bring in experts in the field of self-care, burnout prevention, and communication to offer the latest tools and strategies. And so most of them are activists who've learned these skills, and they're sharing it with other activists so we can all improve our efforts to help animals. And we have online an activist resource list. This one is accessible to anyone. It's really our one-stop shop for mental health, physical, and spiritual resources. So I just wanted to let you know that all of these are available to you. We have websites, books, articles, videos, legal contacts, therapist referrals. All of them are available on the website. So we have some special programs that we've developed as well, and one of them is Animal Activist Appreciation Month, and this is every year in February. We decided while everyone's celebrating Valentine's Day and sharing the love, we wanted to share the love with activists who work all year long so intensely for the animals, and we need to take some time and support each other so we can create a resilient community of activists. So during this month, we provide featured activist stories, activist awards with donations by and defense of animals for other activists and their pursuits, self-care tips, and also self-care. We also have a pledge, and we provide an activist organizer and all kinds of different things. So tune into that. And then our namesake here for this particular webinar, we put together the Hope for Animals Summit, which is a free online webinar series with authors and activists to provide hope in times of despair. So our sustainable activism campaign, we offer these services for activists. We have the first Thursday of the month is when we put together our sustainable activism webinar. The second Thursday, we also have a vegan spirituality online gathering. The fourth Thursday of every month, we have an animal activist online support group. And then we have ongoing video tips, as I mentioned, our Facebook group and the helpline. So we really hope that you will use these services, share them with your friends, with other people that you know, and we really encourage you to get involved. This is a way that we're creating community here. So here's a little sample of one of our webinars. So this was a presentation that Dr. Will Tuttle gave about how to manage in times of, or even every day when you're seeing all kinds of gruesome images on Facebook specifically. And here's a little video tip. So we put together a lot of tips. I shared the one that I did, but they were from activists and authors, and those are also accessible on our website. And these tips just refresh our memory of here's something that we can do. And a little bit more about how and why we started the helpline. So we recently added another feature. We have texting as well. So if you can either call that phone number or you can text us, and a trained counselor, will respond to you. It may even be me. So if you want to access any of these tools, the easiest way to do that is to go to our website, which is idausa.org/sustainable activism. And that phone number is 1-800-705-0425. So thank you very much for listening and tuning in and giving us the opportunity to share some of these resources with you. A couple of my favorite testimonials I'll share with you briefly. One of them is I can breathe now. So someone who's gotten the help that they need, they said that. And I learned how to put my negative feelings into context and understand what's really going on. One of my personal favorites is taking care of myself will empower me to save more animals. And of course, we need a community to have emotional support. So again, if you want to find our resources we have online, and one that I didn't mention before is our events page. That's a great way to stay up to date on what's happening. That one's idausa.org/events. And the Facebook groups, if you want to search for them, it's the Animal Activist Online Support Group. And we also have a vegan spirituality community on Facebook as well. Lastly, I'd like to thank all of you for what you do to help animals and let you know that we're here to support you. So thank you so much. We're going to move on to our next speaker. And we've got Lorrin here.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi. So thank you to everyone. And I'm delighted to hear Lorrin's talk. She'll be presenting about leadership.
Thanks, Lisa. And thank you, everybody, for everything that you do for the animals. We couldn't be making the progress that we're making without you. So let me just hop over, share my screen. All right. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about leading into hope, about being the change that we want to see for the animals. And I'll start with sharing this quote by Senator Cory Booker, one of the few politicians who actually does speak out on behalf of the animals. He said, "Hope and faith do not exist in the abstract. They are the active conviction that frustration, despair will never have the last word. They're the active conviction that frustration and despair will never have the last word." So I want you to hold that in your mind. The fact that you are an activist, the fact that you take action, whatever it is, whether it's signing a petition, sharing a vegan meal with somebody, speaking out at an event, talking to your politicians, whatever action you're taking means that frustration and despair will never have the last word. because you are an activist, and inherent in that is hope. The fact that you're taking action is a hopeful act, and hope will win if we don't give in to despair. So I want you to consider this. Have you ever thought of yourself as a leader? Because you are. Every activist on the planet, everybody taking action for good, change the world for good, is a leader. You're a thought leader. You're leading by example, right? Even the quiet activists who just simply, I just went vegan and I don't necessarily talk about it a lot, or I rescued my animals from a shelter or from the side of the road. Anything that people are doing to lead by example makes you a leader. And as a leader, we have a powerful opportunity to influence other people for good. I want to talk to you about leadership because I don't think very many activists really have sat with that belief, have thought of themselves as leaders in this movement, this very, very powerful and increasingly fast movement of ours for the animals. So it's time you did. It's time you thought of yourself and recognized yourself as a leader, as you are. And to be effective as an advocate for the animals, we need to think about how we're being strategic, how we're being focused on our effectiveness over the long term. So I want to ask you, how are you showing up as a leader right now? How are you leading by example for the animals? How can we get better at it? Important thing. Leaders are always looking to improve what we're doing, how we're doing it. Right? And so great leaders, if you look around the world, spiritual leaders, leaders of enterprise, leaders in the movement, great leaders know themselves. They know who they are. They know what their values are. They know what their needs are. And importantly, they know what their strengths are, and they play to those strengths. They stay strategic. They stay focused. They play this long game, right? A lot of the time, the great leader, they pick a battle wisely because they know that, if I make a concession here, I'm going to gain an even bigger advantage there. And so they very much keep that end goal in mind, whatever they're doing. Great leaders use the right tools for the job. So they know when to use a hammer, when to use a velvet glove, and they use that effectively. Great leaders inspire people, and they influence them effectively through that inspiration. They build a strong community. Lisa just mentioned how important community is for activists. And leaders build a very strong community. If you look at most of the leaders around the world, they have very strong networks that extend and enhance what they're trying to do. And they invest in themselves. The leaders don't necessarily lay down and allow the world to walk all over them. They will say, I have boundaries, I have needs, I need to improve in these areas, and I need to look after myself in these areas. And so I'm going to take that investment. I know that it will help me serve the greater good on a more sustainable and resilient way. And last but not least, something we'll talk a little bit about moving forward is great leaders know the difference between empathy and compassion. I'll give you an example. Empathy is where you feel with the rest of the being that is experiencing something. You enter into that experience. And as activists, you'll have a high degree of empathy. And sometimes take that a little too far and become enmeshed with the other beings that we're entering into experience with. Compassion, on the other hand, is still alongside of the other being, However, it's not entering in. It's walking alongside of. So, for example, a surgeon that has to amputate a leg that is threatening the life of the person that it belongs to, that surgeon needs to be compassionate, take a hard action. They can be empathetic to a degree. And so to allow themselves to have that little distance, one of the testimonials Lisa just read was, I can separate myself enough that I can do better good. I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what it said. So valuing our empathy, knowing that that's what allows us to feel the passion that we do for the animals, then leaning into our compassion in order to sometimes take action. It's an important leadership trait and something that I think some of us can really work on. I know I do. So let's start with leadership. Leadership is this, right? We all know that we've chosen a path that at some point we're going to want to give up. And when we do, when we get that point, when we hit that wall of despair, we need to remember that we're not going to give up, because we have the most powerful why on the planet. We're doing this for an important reason. We're doing this for peace. We're doing this for passion. We're doing this for those animals who can't do it for themselves. We're doing this to help humanity evolve into a more compassionate species. So whatever our why is what's going to keep us going. And one of the hallmarks of a great leader is that they have an incredibly powerful why. They tap into that why on a daily basis. So that when they're feeling the despair, they're feeling the overwhelm, feeling the burnout, they look back and they say, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And that helps them continue. That helps them to say, I'm not going to let frustration and despair win. Because I know why I'm doing this. It's important. And they don't give up. So leaders are strategic. And I love this quote by a gentleman called Tim Fargo, who's a multiple entrepreneur. We were talking, he was talking in an interview about conflict and how to address conflict in a compassionate and accountable way. And he said one of the questions that he always likes to ask is, when I'm in a conflict situation, does the action that I want to take, that I'm dying to take, does that serve my interest in that moment, or does it serve my interest in the greatest scheme? In other words, where do I want this to end? Right? So am I going to react to a situation because it serves my need in that moment for expression, for outrage, for vindication, for action, or does it serve the interest of the greatest? Am I going to take a breath and think about how can I approach this in a way that is going to have the longest, most positive impact? Where do I want this to end? And I found that this question, I pretty much hold this question for myself a lot. Because when I'm entering into situations where I could have a quick knee-jerk reaction, wait a second, is what I'm about to do serve my interest right now? Serve my interest right now? That oftentimes will help me take enough of a pause, shift my approach a little bit into a more positive direction. So pick the battle and choose your tactics. Use, like we said before, different tools. It would be a hammer, it would be a velvet glove. So thinking strategically is a very strong leadership attribute that the best advocate tends to apply. All good leaders are also self-aware. They invest in understanding themselves. So we talked a little bit about knowing your why and connecting to that why every day, but also knowing what are my values? Really, really, what are my values? What do I stand for in this world? Do I stand for integrity? Do I stand for passion? Do I stand for courage? What are my top driving values? And how am I living to be in alignment with those values? Great leaders also then say, what are my needs? What do I need from the world? Do I need recognition? Do I need validation? Do I need a positive outcome? Do I need some rest right now? Right? So understanding their needs and how that might play into how am I acting that is not in accordance with my values. So really kind of finding that balance between need and value. The other thing that great leaders do is they understand their triggers. So am I being saying to my strengths, or am I constantly putting myself in a situation that is going to beat me, or trigger me, or stack trauma for me? Knowing these, if you know in advance what's going to trigger you, then you're a little bit more prepared for when that happens. And then you can choose your response a little bit more mindfully. So really kind of thinking about that, having that depth of self-awareness help us be healthier, help us be happier, and it can actually also help us be more effective as advocates. So to that end, great leaders also train their brains. We know what are our cognitive biases. How are we listening to people? Are we listening to understand, or are we listening to confirm a bias that we already hold? Are we listening to understand, or are we listening to reply? Okay. Are we hearing the other person, or are we already making up our minds about what they're saying before they've even finished? Really kind of being aware of our cognitive biases. Harnessing our reticular activating system. This is one of my favorite parts of my brain. So let's say, for example, you decide you want to go out and buy a new car, right? And you say, I'm going to buy a little red hatchback. And as you're thinking about buying your little red hatchback, you notice that everybody on the road is driving a little red hatchback. Like, how can that be? Everybody has this red hatchback. And you start to notice them everywhere. That's the power of what we call your reticular activating system. What you're focusing on comes to the forefront regularly and powerfully. And so, unfortunately, we're human beings. We tend to focus on bad things, right? And oftentimes, because we're in a situation where we're fighting against injustice, abuse, tyranny, exploitation, etc., we tend to start to see that everywhere. Jessica Dolce, actually, who's a passionate educator, she has a great course. And one of the first things that she said in this course gave me pause for thought, because she said, our experiences shift our worldview, right? So we get to the point where we see the worst all the time because of what we've seen. Right? So we've seen terrible things, and so therefore, moving forward, that's all we see. That's the reticular activating system at work. And I'm going to say, don't ignore the bad stuff, but also look for good. Look for good. Look for the people who are volunteering. Look for the people who are helping. Look for the positive stories of forward movement. It's going to take a little bit more discipline than simply just reacting to the world, because we're wired a little bit to look for the negative. But good news is that neurons that fire together wire together. And so the more we practice this focusing on what's going right, what can the solution be, where are people stepping forward into their compassion, how can we encourage that? The more we look for that, the more we see it. And so we can start training our reticular activating system for a good reason. We're not saying it doesn't happen. We're not putting our head in the sand. What we're doing is we're focusing energy on what's going well. Because where you focus energy, well, where energy is focused, it tends to expand. So if we're always focusing on the bad, we're going to feel overwhelmed. We're going to feel burned out. We're going to feel despairing. But if we're looking for the good and we're celebrating the good and we're finding the good, we're also attracting that good in. And we're also encouraging other people to step into their ability to be a part of that good too. And so that is a much more energizing and nourishing perspective to be able to hold. So if you can hold that, even if it's just in balance bad, right? Keep your focus on finding the good. Find that good. And learn to influence people effectively. I think all of us have been accused probably of being judgy or sanctimonious or self-righteous or any of that stuff, right? What's happening there when somebody says that to us? Well, what's happening there is we're having somebody in resistance, right? So we haven't necessarily influenced them effectively. Yes, they have a part in that, right? They're probably in a resistant state because maybe they're feeling guilty about something that they're doing. Maybe some part of their system is saying, "Well, it's a little too close to comfort." Right? And we need to recognize that when somebody is in resistance, they're not going to be freely embracing and endorsing the changes and the solutions that we're proposing to them. So our challenge as leaders in this world, as leaders in this movement, is to think, how can I make this person want to change? How can I have them want to freely embrace and endorse the solution, which is compassion, kindness, right? Justice. So there was some research done a while back that really looks at how people influence. And the research, I'm not going to go into details here, but it identified 9 different tactics we use when they're trying to influence somebody else. What they found in later research too was that most effective influencers use a balance of tactics. So they'll balance head and heart. They won't just go to people with facts and data. They'll go to them with facts and data and an inspirational perspective. So the people that were most effective, the leaders that were most effective at influencing others, used a combination of inspiration and what they call rational persuasion. And I'm appealing to your head and your heart. Right? People make decisions differently. And so those people who were more influential, they had more success in people actually committing to the solution rather than simply complying with it and obviously not resisting it. So when we can think about how are we influencing others, what's working, what's not working, we have to start with just paying attention, right? When we try and influence somebody else, what works for us, what doesn't work for us, and then looking at, okay, I'm going to do more of what works. Okay. Conflict. One of my favorite topics right now. Conflict is opportunity, right? Conflict, people think of it as a terrible thing, right? In fact, any time you read the news, people use conflict as another word for war. Right? Actually, conflict is really just energy. And if we can harness the powerful, positive aspect of energy that can lead us out of this drama and toxicity that we tend to find ourselves in and into a more compassionate world. And so how we do that is we recognize what we're doing when we hit a conflict situation. Most of the time, we're either going to fall into what they call the drama roles. So Stephen Kaufman, who's a doctor, came up with these roles that people tend to fall into in a toxic conflict situation. They will tend to respond as a victim, a rescuer, or a persecutor. And understanding how those roles play out and what dynamics they tend to encourage in a conflict can help us say, is there a better way to do this? And yes, there is. There is a much more compassionate way. So I teach a compassionate accountability, where we look at those drama roles and we say, if I'm behaving as a victim, what's the compassionate, accountable alternative to that? Being open, acknowledging, empathizing. Right? If I'm being a rescuer, what's the compassionate, accountable foil to that? That's being resourceful. If I'm being a persecutor, what's compassionate, accountable opposite to that? Right? And that's commitment and perseverance. Great word for us activists. Perseverance, persistence, right? So really looking at that, and again, a lot of this is coming down to knowing yourself, staying mindful, and keeping that strategic perspective. So when we can start shifting conflict from these dramatic, toxic encounters into a more compassionate, accountable encounter, where we can sit with the person and move forward with them, we're moving somewhere. We're going somewhere forward, positive. Right? So learning how to handle conflict positively, very important part of being a leader. The other part is networking. I'm going to say it, right? A lot of people, again, just like conflict, they think networking, I don't want to network, right? You can network in ways that are right for you. There's not one networking fits all. But the reason why I'm saying networking is that we need to build a community, and we need to build a positive, resilient, engaged, active, and strategic community. How you do that is you think about, how do I contribute to the community? How do I contribute to this beautiful movement of activists around the world that are striving to make it a better place for all beings? How can I be supported by that community? How do I ask for help? How do I build my community? This is a really important point, so that it's not just an echo chamber, but it's extension. And by extension, I mean, first of all, you don't have to do all the activism all the time, okay? There's stuff that you're going to be really good at, stuff that you're not going to be good at, or that is going to really drain you. So that might be something that somebody else is really good at and loves doing, right? So when you're building your network, see if you can find people who are good at different things, who enjoy different things, who have different perspectives, because that's going to help, again, it's going to help you be extensible and help your community become more resilient. They're all trying to do the same thing all the time. You're going to burn out. Just thinking about that. And this last point, dig your well before you're thirsty. Invest in your community before you need to reach out to them. Okay? Contribute, become an active member of groups, have discussions, reach out to your local animal activist groups if you have them. Become active, contribute. And then when you need the support and you ask for it, they'll be there for you. It's really important. You can't be a good leader, can't be a good activist in a vacuum. Really, really important. Which leads me to take care of yourself. Right? I want you to be very clear about the difference between self-care and self-indulgence, right? Self-care can be anything from asking for help to eating healthily, to moving your body, to making sure you're hydrated, to taking a rest day, giving yourself permission to grieve, giving yourself permission to be angry, giving yourself permission to take a day off, right? See all of those things, right? It could be, I need a massage, or you know what, today I'm going to invest in just some light entertainment. I might go to a movie, right? We have to maintain our engine. We have to be able to keep going. You don't have a car that clocks 300,000 miles without regular maintenance. You're not looking after it, keeping the engine clean, oiled, keeping it lubricated, and this is out. Same with you as an actor. So really, really making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. Again, when you start to feel, oh, gee, maybe I shouldn't take care of myself in that way because it's, I should be out there advocating 24/7. Think again about what your why is. Think again of how important a component of this huge movement you are, and make sure that you maintain that engine. There's a reason why flight attendants, they put your own oxygen mask on first. And the reason why they say that is because, yes, we want you to look after yourself. And we're all looking after a lot, right? So if you tend to martyr yourself, you tend to put everybody ahead of yourself all the time to the point where you burn out, then what's just happened is that you've become a drain on the system. Right? You've become somebody who needs somebody else then to help them. So by not taking care of yourself, you've actually become an anchor. Right? So put your oxygen mask on. Breathe deep. Breathe deep. And stand with us, fighting. Focus that energy. And own only what's yours. Don't take on everything that belongs to everybody else. When you're feeling the pain, when you're feeling the despair, stop for a minute and say, is this mine? If it's not mine, it does not serve anybody for me to take on. I can acknowledge it. I can be sad about it. I can act about it. But if I allow it to drag me down, I'm not helping the movement. I'm not helping the animals. That's my why. Thinking about that. Self-care is not selfish. Self-care is an act of leadership and an act of solidarity with all of your other activists who are standing in line. We're only as strong as our weakest link, people. We all need to stay strong. At that point, action. Action. I know you're going to feel despair. I know you're going to feel a lack of confidence or fear, courage. And in those times, the most important thing is something, anything. Sign a petition, write an email, call a senator, send email to your friends, get out, protest something, anything. It could be a small piece of action, it could be a huge piece of action, but take action, right? Nothing that you do is going to be small. But if you do nothing, that is. And I know, I've been in this situation where you feel the despair, you feel the overwhelm, and you think, I just can't get out there, I can't do anything. That's a negative spiral. And however hard it is to take one piece of little action, that little piece of action grows in power the minute you take it, and it becomes an antidote. It turns your vicious cycle into a virtuous cycle. It is an antidote. I acknowledge the reality of depression and despair, trauma in this work that we're doing. I really do. And I also ask, do what you need to do. Look after yourself and take action. It doesn't matter how small. Take some action. Have some fun. I know we're dealing with something really serious here, but we can still have fun with it, right? Who says, when did we buy into this belief system that to be an activist, we have to always be depressed and sad and angry? Why can't we have fun? Why can't we be joyful about the fact that we are changing the world, that we are leading the world into a new and better place, right? That we are stepping into our leadership, that we're stepping into the responsibility that we have to these other beings, to be there for them, be in solidarity with them. That's a joyful act. And joy is powerful energy. So this picture is a friend of mine in Santa Fe. I just love her, right? We were out on a cold and wet day, and she was dressed up in this awesome cow suit, so she was warm as anything. And she was having fun with it. And you know what? So many more people were attracted to talk to her about her message than if she'd been yelling obscenities at them, right? So let's think about this. Let's lean into the joy of what we're doing. There is enough darkness out there. We encounter enough horror. Let's find the joy. Let's look for it. Let's make it happen. Right? Let's encourage people to come on this journey with us. Martyrdom is not an attractive recruiting strategy, by the way. Leadership is. Positivity is. Resilience is. Let's celebrate every single win for the animals, every single time we see it. Let's share that with the world. Let's tell people. Right? Let's show them the force of this movement is driving so much significant change in the world. Let's encourage people to come along with us. Remember, what we focus on expands. So the more joy and the more focus and the more forward momentum that we can generate, the more people can't help but come with us. And so have some fun with the way to do that. And above and beyond everything, rise on the prize for. We aspire to kindness on a huge scale. We are leading a powerful shift in humanity's consciousness. And if we don't settle for anything less than kindness on a huge scale, we'll get it. Not settle. Let's keep our eyes on the prize. Let's be the leaders for the animals. Because that, friends, the hope. We are the people we've been waiting for. We are the people they've been waiting for. We are hope for the animals. That's my sweet fellow and sweet gift, saying, go for it, keep going, you can do it, believe in you. So here are some resources as I wrap up. Some books that I found have been really pretty useful. Very small, free Kindle book, actually, called Self-Care for Activists, Guide for Clearing Yourself of Trauma While Working for a Better World by Eric Marcus. Really enjoyed that book. Thought it was a good read, worth downloading. The second book that I'm listing here, Motivational Methods for Vegan Advocacy. It doesn't matter if you're vegan or not, read the book, okay? Because he makes some phenomenal points, and he comes at it from a very, very important perspective. He understands psychology of people. And the important thing, again, and you'll see it time and time again in the book, is keeping your eyes on the end goal and encouraging people along to it. Conflict Without Casualties by my colleague Nate Bergier. Great books on working through conflict in a positive and compassionate way. And obviously nonviolent communication. Felice has spoken about the nonviolent communication training that we've had as counselors on the helpline, for example. Very important work. Very important work to learn to listen and speak in a more compassionate and loving way. And obviously I do coaching and workshops too. So if you're interested in learning more, contact me, set up a call and talk about it, how you can be a better leader for the animals. And with that, I am going to sign off. My favorite slide. The animals say, you've got this. You've got this. Lead on. Thank you. All right.
Oh, that was great.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Lorrin. We really appreciate your insight and the loving way that you deliver it. I really benefited from hearing you share that. I feel so encouraged. Thank you so much.
And thank you to everybody out there who's doing everything, big, small, loud, quiet, whatever you're doing. Thank you for it.
Yeah, both of those presentations were so great. You know, Lisa, it was fabulous to have all your important information and inspiration with, you know, the idea that there's community. And Lauren, just what thoughtful step by step, you know, looking at how important it is to remain empathic and all of that. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, and we hope that you will make use of this information. This presentation is really designed for activists so that they can be more effective and become leaders in the community as you already are, and also to provide some resources so that you know that you're not alone, and if you do need help, please call. We're here to support you. So thanks to everyone for tuning in to the Hope for Animals Summit. We're very grateful to have everyone with us today, and many blessings to you and your activism, and we know that the animals will benefit from all that you do. So
Thank you.
thanks to everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.